This is a bad sign for your Green Bay Packers. I know they're not your Packers, but he's your quarterback. Bad sign, unless we don't know that he's been addressing said criticism internally. I do not know that. Maybe they've addressed it as a team, as a coaching staff with Aaron, but it sure didn't sound like it the way he spoke yesterday. I think he's still being a little bit delusional about this because he's still in the mode of, I'm Aaron Rodgers. How dare you question anything about me and my leadership? Which was exactly the issue raised by Greg Jennings and Donald Driver, two very bright veteran receivers who basically said that in Green Bay, and certainly within that organization, Aaron Rodgers has been placed on such a pedestal that he could do no wrong. And he is above any and all criticism when he does have a bad game or makes a bad decision here or there. He still tends to call out teammates, deflect blame, and point fingers, which is not strong leadership. I have absolutely no problem with his talent. It's obviously great talent. Very good arm, very accurate, good feet. But part of that quarterback package is the ability to lead that football team. And I think it will slip a little bit again this year if, in fact, there's any leftover sentiment from Greg Jennings and Donald Driver that others in that locker room feel the same way, and it did not get addressed. I always tell you, unity is far more important within the NFL than it is in the NBA or even in the sport of baseball. You must be united, and I'm not convinced that they are united around Aaron Rodgers.
Skip Bayless, we all know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. He's a bad man. He's not my friend. I don't know him. I met the man one time. He seemed to be a relatively nice guy. The fact of the matter is, I think he is the best quarterback in the NFL. I think his throwing prowess is just exceptional. It's above the charts. It's off the charts. This dude is the real deal. I ain't going to spout out numbers because we know about the passer rating. We know about his excellence on the field, and we know how I feel about him. With all of that said, Skip Bayless, I must confess to you, I agree with you.
What?
About Aaron Rodgers.
Stand by.
I agree. I think that you're right on this. Here's why. We both were, at least myself, I was relatively critical about Greg Jennings in terms of what he said about Aaron Rodgers when he went over to the Minnesota Vikings. But I never questioned the character or the class or the talent of a Greg Jennings. I just was speaking about that particular incident, and Greg and I spoke about it. I just said you should be talking about that way about your former quarterback when you're a part of a new team, which is what Vikings coach Leslie Frazier basically agreed with me about, okay? Donald Driver is a highly respected veteran in this league, all right? He's not there anymore, but the point is that he's done it. He's been there and he's done that. When Donald Driver and Greg Jennings say something about you, whether we agree or disagree is one thing, but to summarily dismiss what they say and to sit there and say, I'm not going to change, dare I say, adds credence and substance to everything that you said about him in terms of him being resolute, Aaron Rodgers, that is, being resolute in his belief that he doesn't need to change anything. We all need to grow and mature. We all have to modify our behavior or our approach to things from time to time based on the personnel that we're working with on a day-to-day basis. How we all choose to conduct ourselves normally may need to be modified if we need to work with other individuals because the collective effort needs to be performed in order to get the job done. To have guys as respected as Greg Jennings and Donald Driver say something about you, and for you to just sit there and say, I'm not changing a thing, alarmed me. I would have had no problem if he said, I kind of don't appreciate them publicizing that. I would have had no problem with Aaron Rodgers saying, well, I don't agree with everything they say. I would have had no problem and had far more respect for Aaron Rodgers had he simply sat there and said, you know something? I respect those guys. I may not agree with everything that they said, but let me take a moment to really think about it because it's them. Greg Jennings is a classy dude, regardless of whether we agree with him or disagree with him. He's a professional, and he's a good dude. Donald Driver is highly respected by his contemporaries and his peers in the NFL and in that Green Bay Packers locker room.
Yep.
So for Aaron Rodgers to just say, no, I ain't changing a thing, that does seem a bit diva-esque, okay? And that did force me, that did give me cause to pause and think back to some of the things my nemesis Skip Bayless has said about him on many occasions.
I have
And
used
I
that
just had
phrase.
to sit there.
I have used thin-skinned diva a couple times on that bad man that is Aaron Rodgers. Those, my friend, are wise words from Mr. Stephen A. Smith. The question I have is it possible Aaron Rodgers will hear those wise words, maybe even today? I don't know. Maybe he's watching right now. Will he let them compute? Will he take them internalized to the point that he says, gee, maybe I should back off a little bit here?
Here's where he won't have any choice but to hear it. If other teammates who respect Jennings and Driver feed off of that and they act accordingly, and let's just say they start to distance themselves to some degree from Aaron Rodgers because of his personality, and dare I say it affects their performance in any way, you now have a problem. When you are the leader, part of the reasons, one of the primary reasons any leader is labeled a leader is because of their ability not just to perform, but to galvanize those around them to perform to peak performance as well. If you're not doing that, then you don't qualify as a leader. And that's what Aaron Rodgers is going to have to realize. I take what Greg Jennings and Donald Driver say very seriously. Even though I don't believe Greg Jennings should have said it at the time, that doesn't mean that I summarily dismiss what the man is saying. I'm just saying you don't publicize that and say that about your quarterback when you go to another team. But Greg Jennings and Donald Driver ought to be respected. And Aaron Rodgers should not summarily dismiss what they say. And the fact that he's willing to do that, I find somewhat alarming.
All right, Stephen A., let me ask you a question. How do you feel this morning from Philly?
I always feel good, girl. I'm in good shape. I'm feeling good. My health is getting better and better.
I'm giving you your morning
I'm following Skip's advice. I'm cutting back on the sugar. I'm doing all of that stuff. But I do feel loved now, Kerry, that you have taken it. Since I was sitting here 20 minutes before the show, I find it, I'm loving it now that you are greeting me with the love I feel I deserve. I must admit, I was hurt for a second.
The truth is, I think she just wanted to be able to talk a little bit before you started.